All right, item 2, consent agenda. And entertain a motion to approve.
All the minutes been in the packet that we're approving.
Yes, sir.
I second. Thank you. All in favor? Okay. Public forum citizen communication. Is anybody signed up to speak?
Not for the housing authority.
Item 4, action item resolution number HATC 2022-04, approving the work supplement to the annual plan.
Okay, so as you know, we're excited about our opportunity to be one of the few moving to work agencies in the US. And so Christina Montez will be leading us through this discussion. We also have an invited guest that will be sharing some information with us as part of this process. I'm going to turn it over to Christina at this point.
So, so for those of you that are new, we were awarded the moving to work designation. And it doesn't mean what it says. Moving to work is just a designation where we can basically create new policy, be innovative in our policy, and do 3 things, which is promote cost effectiveness, self-sufficiency for families, and housing choice. So we are excited to present to you what we have come up with our consultant after talking to staff, after hearing some public feedback over the last 2 years that we've been working on this. So this is the new policy that we're wanting to implement. So I think Ms. Terry will be presenting from the Nan McKay. So hopefully she is online.
She doesn't appear to be.
Do you want to give us a summary of that?
Yeah, it's a long, a lot of policy. So what I can do is I can highlight each policy initiative, and if you have questions, then we can go from there. Does that work?
Okay.
Okay, so we have it. Yeah, so I'm gonna let Omar kind of, I think Omar's gonna give you this. If you can go to the next slide, please. Okay, perfect. So as you know, I already talked about this. We were designated as a PHA, so we'll go ahead and go to the next slide. We talk about input. I don't know if there's anybody online. We did invite the public as part of this public hearing. We sent several invitations out. And so we welcome any feedback because we do have 15 days from today to go ahead and submit it to HUD.
This looks like she's joining.
Okay, perfect. Go ahead and let her take over.
Terry, can you hear me? Terry, can you hear me?
So sorry. I had to something else before it would allow me to unmute, and I didn't know that. Good morning.
Not a problem. So I will navigate the PowerPoint and you can direct me when you would like me to move to the next slide.
Okay. We can do that way. Wonderful. Thank you. And I don't believe that you have any reason to have my video on.
Terry, are you still there?
I am still here. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So are we ready to begin?
We are ready to begin.
All right. Thank you very much. Well, first of all, I'm Terry Robertson with Nan McCain Associates, and I have been privileged to work with the agency on preparing a necessary document as you move to the moving to work status for HUD. And I do want to first congratulate you on achieving MTW status. It is a sought after status among housing authorities. So the next slide. Here we go. It takes an application to HUD to become a moving to work. And obviously, the Housing Authority of Travis County did apply and was awarded that status. So now what HUD requires is for the agency to submit a supplement. explaining the initiatives the agency wishes to enact. So that's what we're going to be going over today. Excuse me, I had to clear my throat there. So we do want to hear from you. You can share your thoughts within this call, within this meeting. If you are participating via webinar, you should be able to use the chat function. You can address any questions or thoughts either to the entire group or to individuals. And of course, you can just speak up if you wish. Another approach, you can email after the presentation to share any of your thoughts with the Housing Authority. And of course, that email address is up on the screen. Okay, next slide. So to be clear, achieving MTW status does not mean the agency can enact any measures it wishes. But as it stands without MTW status, the Housing Authority is bound strictly by the HUD regulations, primarily those found in 24 CFR Part 5, 24 CFR Part 982, and 24 CFR 983. So we have to follow those rules. But once you achieve MTW status, HUD says there are some other approaches you can take to running your business. So certain measures can be enacted. So having gone through the possible measures, the Housing Authority made sure that the initiatives we're going to discuss today support the agency's mission and vision. And we can go to the next slide and get a quick review of the agency's mission and values. So the mission is the Housing Authority of Travis County's mission is to preserve and develop affordable housing in vibrant communities, which enhance the quality of life for all. As an innovative, progressive, high-performing housing authority, HATC's values support the mission and vision. They help define the culture and reflect the agency's purpose, principles, and identity, which are integrity, people, excellence, sustainability, innovation, transparency, and respect. So we will start going through the various initiatives with the next slide, and they do support these this mission and these values. So the basic goals we have to explain to HUD too. What are we trying to achieve through these measures? Well, the goals here are to encourage greater self-sufficiency among our program participants by streamlining our processes. It's no secret that the rules in the Housing Choice Voucher Program are incredibly complex. So where we can streamline not only helps the staff in operations, but it helps the families understand how their program is run. In addition, a major goal is to increase family housing choice by implementing landlord initiatives that should result in new owners participating in the program. I will share with you that I work with housing authorities all across the country, and it is you hear repeatedly how difficult it is in these last 3 years, it's been more so, how difficult it can be for our families to find a unit they can lease under the program. So landlord initiatives will open up the housing market a bit more for them, assisting them in making those choices. And the third goal, always agencies look to this and the ability to use the MTW initiatives to reduce program costs in running the program and increase operating efficiency. So these are our goals. So next slide. Let's get into the specific initiatives. So every agency is required to establish a minimum rent. And it's a bad name, to tell you the truth, because it's not really minimum rent. It's a minimum total tenant payment, which can go to shelter and utilities. That minimum rent, using HUD's term, can be established under regulations anywhere from $0 to $50. But under the MTW initiative, we can go higher, and the agency would like to increase that minimum rent to $75. This too will promote rent simplification, increase cost effectiveness. But what you need to know about most of these initiatives, in the event that some families could be harmed financially by the initiatives, The agency has hardship provisions in place and will notify the families at the time the initiatives are put into place and anytime they might be impacted, that if certain situations apply, the family could say, hold up, doesn't work for me, and the agency would look at that. So want to assure you that low-income families have protection. What we did do was we ran an impact analysis, and the first thing to know, elderly and disabled families, this will not apply. And then when we combined our analysis with some of the anticipated impact on HAP, and of course, that's how much we pay as a housing authority on behalf of the family to the owner. So there was no anticipated impact. So the net change to the total tenant payment amounts changed without hardship exemption was 0. And we can go to the next slide.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
So on the, this is Ann Denton, on the minimum rent and the hardship expenditure for people who are entering our services through who are homeless or experiencing homelessness, that would that be an automatic exemption, hardship exemption if they're coming in with no income?
It would not be automatic, but at the time they came on the program, the hardship exemption would be explained to them and a form provided where they could request it. And then we would go ahead and apply that. So you are aware, there's always, so sorry. This is a requirement regardless of the amount the minimum rent that an agency puts into place, unless of course the agency's minimum rent is 0. But most agencies are not doing that. So anytime a minimum rent is setting the family's total tenant payment by the calculation, anytime it comes into play, the housing authority is required to notify the family, hey, you might qualify for a minimum rent hardship exemption. Here are the qualifiers. Let us know, and we will take a look at this right away.
Yeah, I would say, I have two things I would say. I think it would be helpful to streamline that, since we can't anticipate that some households are going to be coming in with no income. And I think it would be, rather than making it, well, if you want to apply for a hardship, you can. I think we should, Christina, trust you to figure out how to make that easy for people. The other thing I would say about this presentation is, thank you. This level of detail is very helpful, but we can read. So if you could summarize more, that would be great. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. And sometimes I'm unsure how much context is needed, but I will try to summarize better. Thank you.
It's hard to do it on Zoom too. So thank you.
Yes, I know. It's harder to read faces.
Absolutely.
So,
Yes.
thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, and the next one, tenant payment would be one of the key things. So the formula for determining TTP as established by HUD also relies on the highest of certain figures. Right now, one of those figures is 30% of monthly adjusted income. That is the most common figure used in determining what a family's total tenant payment will be. So the agency wants to reduce it to 28%. Again, we have hardship provisions in place. Again, elderly disabled will not be impacted. And again, the net change with the other initiatives to the agency's HAP was 0. So I think next slide. Utility allowance, if you're not familiar with them, it is complicated. For every single family, we have to take a look at the type of unit, the size of the unit, meaning bedroom size, which Utilities are paid by the family, and then the energy source, gas, electricity, etc. So then that's part of the formula to determine how much the family will actually pay to the owner and how much the housing authority will pay. And I would say this is a popular initiative under MTW to adopt a flat utility allowance. And it will still consider, when establishing the flat utility allowance, all of the above pieces, but ultimately will be based on families who are paying some utilities. And this will also, a little side piece that's not on the slide, families are given information about the utility allowances to help them figure out how much their portion of the rent's going to be when they are going out looking for a unit. And this is the piece where they just throw their hands up in the air. They cannot figure it out. So a flat utility allowance will help them greatly in understanding that as well. Okay, next slide. The regulations established at Congress says that the housing authority cannot approve initial tenancy if the family share, which is the portion paid towards shelter and utilities, exceeds 40% of their monthly adjusted income. Oddly enough, once the family's in that unit, nobody cares anymore. It's only when they are first entering into an assisted contract under that unit. To increase family choice, the housing authority is increasing that percentage to 60% of monthly adjusted income. Okay, next slide. The deductions. There are 5 possible allowances and deductions in the Housing Choice Voucher Program. There's a dependent allowance of $480 per child. There is a $400 allowance for elderly disabled families. There's the seldom used disability assistance expense and the commonly used medical expense allowance and the child care allowance. So what the agency is going to do is eliminate deductions and eliminate the dependent allowance and the child care allowance, but keeping in mind, this is in concert with some of the other changes. And of course, again, we'll have hardship provisions in place. So we did the impact analysis, taking out the elderly disabled, continue to get their $400. They'll buy. These are the only families that qualify for the $400 elderly or for medical expenses, so they'll continue to get those. So all that's actually being eliminated is the dependent allowance and the child care allowance. And again, the impact analysis, again, combined with the other initiatives, there was no anticipated impact on HAP expenditures. However, hardship provisions are in place for those families that have excessive expenses, and it could impact their ability to pay the rent. Okay, next slide. Quite simply, the agency, this is probably the #1 initiative that MTW agencies put into place. Housing authorities are required to conduct a full-blown reexamination of family composition and income at least once every 12 months. Under the initiative, this would become at least once every 24 months. Combined with this, that the in between
Christina, can you handle some of this?
annual biennial
Terry, it sounds like we're having some connectivity issues.
the family could experience changes based on income are based on family composition. So in the efforts to streamline, the agency would conduct one interim every 12 months if the family's income decreased by 10% or more, but only conduct a.
Okay, let me just summarize real quick and go through the rest of them quickly. So she was talking about the annual certifications, so we're looking to do them every 2 years. So I think there's no questions there. The other thing that we're looking to do sporadically is inspections. We're looking to do those every 3 years. And we have a plan in place to do that. Of course, inspections can be requested by tenant or landlord at any given point throughout the rest of the recertification cycle. The other thing that she mentioned was that we want to do a landlord initiative. So we want to give new landlords up to 1 month's rent for coming onto the program. This is something we've never been able to do before. So we're super excited about that one, to bring in new landlords. And then she talked about the hardship policy. Ms. Denton, your question was very valid regarding the homeless preference. And I forgot to mention that in our current policy now, we have a policy that says anybody that's a homeless preference coming in with zero income gets minimum rent, zero minimum rent. Okay. So I'm going to work on the policy after this is done. Okay. So as long as I can continue that policy will still be firm with anybody coming in. In addition to that, most people that are coming in under a homeless preference are usually disabled anyway. So a lot of this will not apply. So let me just highlight, the elderly and disabled the new rent simplification system is not going to apply to them. They're still going to get all their deductions, et cetera, et cetera. I think that was everything she highlighted. The only other thing is now clients can self-certify up to $25,000 in assets, whereas right now, anything above 5,000, we have to go ahead and get proof of. Right now, we're telling them if you have 25,000, you document it, that's good enough for us. And that way they can keep their money and save it. One of the things I want to highlight as far as the recertification cycle, we're taking away the tenants' need to have to report their income. So if they have an increase in income during that cycle, they can keep their increase, they can save it and do whatever they need for it, because the whole point is to promote them, right? Self-sufficiency. Right. We will allow one decrease in income with a 10% per year, unless there's a hardship. There's always that hardship policy where we're going to have to review every single thing that comes through. And I think that's everything.
Well, highlight that veterans, that VAS program. Okay.
So the VAS are disabled, so they're not going to be, the rent simplification is not going to apply to them. What will apply to everybody will be the annual certification going to 2 years and the inspection process going to 3. That's going to be across the board. We have asked HUD to allow us to do that across the board for all our special projects, but the veterans will not have the deductions taken away. Those will also be the same. And that's still handled by Victoria.
Can you talk about the increase in initial rent burden? I didn't quite catch all of that.
So the initial rent, currently, we do not allow clients to rent a unit that's above 40% of their monthly adjusted income. When we talk about adjustments, we're talking about all those deductions that she talked about, right? So we constantly get clients that say, we want to rent, we only qualify for 12, but we want to rent something for 15. Can we pay the difference? Well, absolutely not, because it's based on affordability, which is that 40% rule. So now we want to increase that to 60%. They can go and rent that higher priced unit because we're going to allow it. We're going to approve it because I have staff here. Most staff can tell you they all come out and say, well, we can pay the difference. Well, there's some income that's not being reported at that point, right? So now we're going to go ahead and allow them to do that. So that's housing choice to be able to go to outside of those poverty concentrated areas.
Thank you.
And Christina, I have one question as well. I'm not clear on how the increase from $50 to $70. I know it's a $25 difference.
Yeah.
How did that come about? It wasn't clear.
Yes, that's a good. I noticed that you didn't hear the slide that came after that. So as part of our rent simplification process, not only are we doing the 50 to 75, but we're also decreasing the 30% to 28. So that's going to take care of that difference. And if you notice, she said there was a zero net difference. That means we did an impact analysis. We looked at what it would look like if they had 28% with no deductions, what it would look like that 30% with deductions, and it was a 0% change. So by increasing that, we're compensating for that 28% decrease that we're making them pay. Am I making sense there? Whereas right now everybody pays 30%. We're bringing that down to 28, removing the deductions and increasing their minimum rent to 75. Now, that doesn't mean that they pay $75. That doesn't mean everybody pays $75. That means that's going into the calculation. That's part of HUD's regulation that goes into the calculation. Now, certainly, you know, anybody can determine that that's too high and provide feedback on that and so forth, and we would take that and reevaluate that. But when we did do the impact analysis, it did not show a difference in the rent. I think we saw maybe 3 or 4 families that would be affected out of all our pool, and of course, we would do the hardship analysis on them and review their file and see if it's even applicable for that.
And I think you want to maybe underscore the fact that obviously the process is very complicated, and
Yeah.
from that on administrative side, it does simplify the staff's ability to be able to process these applications quicker as a result. So to the individual, it doesn't really change, you know, what they're paying. It changes how we process the allowed amount of
That's correct.
income. So
Yes, and then the
makes
other
sense.
piece of that, I don't know if you've heard it, was that we're doing a utility flat allowance, which means like, if a client comes in, we tell them, this is what you qualify. If you find a unit that's a three bedroom utility allowance, it's gonna be 200, they can easily figure that out. Right now, we have a schedule, right? It's propane, gas, fridge, and they have a schedule, and they have to figure out, well, what's the tenant gonna pay? What's the landlord gonna pay? And it's a little complicated. Honestly, I couldn't do it just looking at it. So now it's just a simple, hey, this is what you qualify for, this is your utility allowance, if you get a 2-bedroom, a 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom, it's flat. So that's the other simplification part.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Other questions or comments?
Well, how flat is it? Is that a utility allowance?
I have to do an
Because
analysis.
That's the,
Correct, yeah, I'm gonna work with a consultant. There's actually a San Antonio Housing Authority, is it there or San Antonio?
San Antonio.
San Antonio Housing Authority did this, and that when we actually, you know, worked with them to see what they look like. So I'm gonna go to their consultant, whoever they use to be able to determine that. So I
so
don't have that yet.
we would set it as what you're saying, or is that?
Correct, we would set it based on an analysis of the market and what the average is for, and I believe there was a piece in here, I don't know if it was in the presentation, where she talked about what our plan is on that. So we're gonna do an analysis of what our current status is, what are 3 bedrooms on average going for, 2 bedrooms, 1 bedroom, as well as what our consultant comes up with. So I'm still not done with this.
You know, we're in a high market. So
Yes, and so we are
Yeah.
looking at, just to kind of give you a timeline, we are looking to implement the majority of those waivers in September, with the recertification cycle and inspection cycle starting in January. Because we need to account for that then, so there is a plan in there.
Thank you.
It's a little complicated, with
Appreciate that.
too much information.
All right, other questions? Anything else?
So we do need a motion to approve the resolution. and move forward.
Yeah. Going there. So, can I have a motion regarding resolution 2022-02?
That's what we
To approve.
to approve, yes.
I second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay. That is approved. Thank you. Christina.
Thank you. So much work. Thank
It
you.
was great, and I'm sorry the presentation didn't, you know.
That's okay, I should have taken over from you. Thank you.
All right, so moving to item 5, regular agenda, election of officers. So, at this point, I think we would entertain the nominations for officers. We have chair and vice chair that need to be elected.
Well, I would nominate myself, if that's okay, to be vice chair.
I might nominate you and be our chair.
I would love to, thank you.
So
So,
I would vote move that the nomination be closed.
Easy, baby.
anyway, and we'll work on out of all the work. All right, so we have a nomination for chair and vice chair, and so all in favor of the nomination?
Aye.
Aye.
We got it. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Chair.
Congratulations.
Chair, vice chair.
There we go, yay, okay. All right,
We
moving,
got a pay raise.
yeah. Moving to item 6, CEO Executive Director's Report.
Okay, so we're attempting to do something a little different. So what we're gonna be doing is providing highlights on the screen with the idea that you all have the board's packets with the background information available. So we want to be able to, evolve this thing where we're gonna really focus on what's happened since the last meeting and how we're really prioritizing our efforts. So with that, we're gonna start with the voucher programs.
So, so this is beautiful, by the way, whoever created this. So we, of course, as you heard, working on submitting that MTW supplement. Now that it's approved, I will do that tomorrow. We will wait for HUD to either approve or disapprove. We'll see what happens. We are very low on our special purpose vouchers leasing, but however, those are coming from referrals. And so I've reached out to our partners and I'm working on that. And then I'm super excited, and I don't know what the actual number is, Subra, but I'm going to just say it. We've been working since January to collect some outstanding portabilities, and we collected $50,000+ so far. I don't know if Subra has the actual number, but I'm so excited about that. And we're continuing to do that. And it looks like we should be able to reconcile that in the next 30 days. So that's my hope. So yeah, we're still going along.
Any questions for Christina?
All right, thank you.
Move on to affordable housing.
Good morning, y'all. So we are working to increase our occupancy. We have current 11 applications that we are having in progress. We have pending verifications, documents, and we will be conducting orientation on the remaining vacant units that we have. We're also working on resolving the subsidy collection issue. This is a task that we have on a daily basis. Currently, we are with CRED, Tim, the consultant that we've hired to help us. He's already submitted it to HUD, which is waiting on approval for that one. For C Oaks, we're just sending information. Some of the tenant info that he requested, we're actually in the progress of gathering all those 5-9s for him, sending it over for review. We'll be sending it over to Jenny De Silva, one of the HUD consultants that was assigned to us for review and then submitting it for approval from HUD. We're also working on maintaining a high level of customer service throughout all of our 5 properties. Any questions?
Are there, talking about sort of approving people for occupancy, or if you could do what Christina did, are there things that you would streamline if you could? If you could, I'm just asking, is there other ways to make that approval process faster?
At the moment, I don't see any changes, but in the future, I can definitely look into it, and if there is any, I'll make sure and present them on the next board meeting.
Well, I'll mention one thing that's been coming up recently with our ability or inability to quickly fill the vacancies is the rental history. If I'm correct in saying that, and I'm not saying we necessarily as an organization would say we would not consider that more seriously or as serious as we have, but that is seeming to be a recurring kind of issue we've had with folks on our waiting list who, once we do the full rental history, they've got things in their background or their history. They don't have a payment plan set up or things of that nature. And I guess what else have we been seeing with some of the potential tenants?
So the 2 major things are the criminal backgrounds on each one of them, and if not, the bad rental history that they have on there. So those are the 2 major that when we're conducting orientation, we're running those. We're running into a roadblock with that, and so we're having to read those out and then conduct orientation all over again. So those are the 2 major issues right now that we're running into. But if we can look into it later down the road to adjust it, tweak it a little bit to help us out on that end, that would be very helpful.
Yeah, I mean, I think within the basic limits of what HUD requires, we have a lot of flexibility.
Okay.
Right, so you can, I would just suggest you look at that.
Yes, ma'am.
It's going to have to be in the next 30 days.
Within the emphasis of the governor's with homeless in the city of Austin and other places doing, is there some way to work with the social workers at the VA to help some of these folks get into some of these units?
Definitely, we can send out some outreach letters to them, and if not, go in person and see if we can get that done.
They have several social workers down at the Central Texas VA.
Definitely, our
All of
maybe,
these services to them.
okay, our waiting list is just closed for 3 of the properties, but as soon as we open them, we can definitely do that and get that going.
Thank you.
And one other question, do you take into consideration if someone is homeless, let's say, for example, they really don't have any real rental history at all? Do you take into consideration how long they've been homeless and how long they've been looking for a place to stay? Their
So we,
parameters around that?
so we do, and if they don't have any rental history, that's okay with us. It's better than having that rental history. So that wouldn't be an issue.
Any other questions? Thank you.
We're gonna, real estate.
Okay.
This is primarily TCFC.
Should we move that to a discussion? or
Yeah, this is an
TCFC board
overview.
meeting?
We will get into that at the meeting, so we can
Yeah,
move
do
forward.
a quick
Yeah.
summary and then we'll get into details in the next one. In the.
But to your point, we do have an item on the TCFC, so we can move on.
Okay. Finance.
Good morning. So what's listed here is just a recap of the financials for the different programs. And also the priorities for the 30 days, work with Travis County to recoup Rosemont expenses. Through end of February, the cumulative amount that we have spent on relocation for the Rosemont residents was 1.7 million. And we have been reimbursed about $500,000, so they still owe us $1.2 million. And we were working with Patrick, we were communicating with Sherry Fleming, back and forth, but she retired. So, it's been passed on to the next person who's, successor. So, so we are working with them and they know that, they owe us 1.2 million. So that's where that stands.
Okay.
The audit for the HATC has been completed. The field work has been completed. Usually after 60 days, we have to submit the unaudited financials to HUD. They would review it and send us their comments. We haven't received their comments yet. And that is one of the reasons why the audit hasn't progressed. Usually they give us one draft, but we are waiting for HUD's comments. And they're kind of, backlogged at HUD. Earlier this week, we kind of contacted them and they said our place in the queue is number 22. So they have 22 other housing authorities in front of us to review. So, just been trying to kind of push that so that we get their comments and then the audit can be finalized. And then the next thing is work with housing staff to collect subsidy. As Carlos said, we have an external consultant we are working with now. Tracks experts, they are helping us. They are a great help actually. They have already done the Eastern Oaks, so now they are kind of focusing on Sea Oaks. So they're going to go back and and submit all the vouchers to HUD for the subsidy.
All right.
Yeah.
questions or comments? Thank you, Steve. And,
Foundation.
should we, let's suspend that till we
Okay.
do a conversation.
We can do that foundation.
Okay, good morning, everybody. With regard to HR and organizational development, I would invite you to, if you haven't already looked at it, there's a much more comprehensive update report in your materials. Again, these are just summaries of what we have going on, or have had going on recently. A lot, in this world, in the HR and organizational development world, especially considering this organization's never had that function in its 50 years of existence until I came along last year. A lot of work goes into the compliance and best practices aspects of the function. So that equates to a lot of ongoing endeavors and long-term projects. And that includes everything from our policy manual revisions, job description development, more than just amending job descriptions, really redeveloping them all. Obviously, the training efforts that we're undergoing and ramping up as we move through time, and the strategic plan tracking and development process, which we just wrapped up, and we're going to be putting a lot of work into tracking that as we move forward. Also, the foundation, which we're obviously going to talk about in a moment, that falls under my purview as well. We'll again get to that when we have the specific board focus on that. And with regard to our in-house training for the rest of the year, we definitely want to invite board members to those, and so stay tuned. We're continuing to have some pretty good content there. So we'd love to have you guys attend if you can, and give you updates on that. And always here if you have any questions.
I suspect that you're behind, or whoever's behind this new format. I like it.
Yeah.
Very, very helpful.
Maybe Omar.
Omar.
Oh, I give some credit to Patrick also. Thank you.
Achievable, measurable 30-day goals. I love it. Okay. Does that conclude our CEO Executive Director's report, or do you have?
Yes, ma'am, that concludes our my report.
All right. Moving to item 7, board committee report. Let me first ask if any of the committees met in the last meeting.
The real estate committee did meet. So we're working through this. Normally, we would have a board member do a synopsis. I'll do that in this case. We did have a meeting to talk about the Facilities Corporation pending item that will be coming before us. So we could obviously go into more detail at that point, but that was the primary purpose of the meeting, is to talk about that deal. Now this is
Any questions or comments? Anything needs to add? So I would encourage us to have the committee meeting, so we can think about looking at how to do that.
Yes, and I would say that we would like to go ahead and schedule those meetings. We're thinking that because we have the committees, governance and HR, the same composition, to have those meetings together.
Combined.
We do have some items we want to sort of get some direction from the board on, in addition to quality of life, which parlays somewhat into what we talked about with the foundation with some other things as well. So we will work with you all on polling you about it at the meeting here in the near future.
Okay. Excellent. Okay. New and unfinished business. Do we have anything that, discussion information regarding board concerns or issues? Okay.
I just want to bring up one thing. I know we sent out information, but I'm gonna strongly encourage you again to consider participating in some of the training that's happening. Typically, they're not in this, in Austin and in San Antonio, and we have the two large organizations that really sort of steer the ship for housing authorities, having their conferences in Austin and San Antonio within the next 3 months. FADA in May in San Antonio, and the Texas NARO affiliate will be here in Austin. So we will facilitate the registration if you're so interested. I think some have expressed interest. I just want to continue to encourage you. If you want, it's a really good opportunity to network with fellow commissioners. There's an ethics course that's being offered that I would encourage you to participate in as well, but we will continue to make sure that information is available to you. So early bird specials is going to be ending soon, so we will get you all the.
Does have to be reach out to you or Omar?
Myself or Omar, yes.
Yeah, and if you guys could just post it in our.
Yes, we will. We will put that back up in board. Yes. We'll do that.
I'm really fond of a FADA conference, but you'd be on vacation.
Of course, you don't have to pay, they just let them know, so
Right,
they
right.
will pay the bill for you, so you don't have to upfront anything.
That's correct.
Yeah, just want to be able to register. so-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just keep your receipts. That's all we ask.
Yeah.
Turn those in.
All right, anything else? Any reason to go into executive session? Any board members? Then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
All in favor?